Greetings, my fellow freedom loving sovereign thinkers. LW's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy Renegade, South Florida, and today's date is Saturday, May 25th, 2019. So let us begin. Good day, my friends. Hopefully everyone's having a great holiday weekend. Just checking back a little bit. Yes, I am recording live to be exact. And just to let you folks know, I am at historic downtowner, located at 10 South New River Drive East, in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Downtown near the courthouse along the New River. Pretty cool place. And you can hit the historicdowntown.com or give them a call at 954-463-1900. They've been around here for like a good 25 years. A really cool, good establishment. First time I've been here was like in 96. And I've done the River Rock Blues Festival. Doing audio. And you had like the poorhouse stage. And right next to the downtown saloon. So it was like good vibe, good folks. Very mom and pa run. So during the afternoon, like for break at the courthouse, people show up here out of the woodworks. Have some bands here once in a while on the Saturday nights, and plus they do trivia stuff and all that. So go on their website, downtowner.com. I'm just going to add that to the footnotes as well. I forgot to do that from the very beginning, so I will make a note of that. So to be very frank, I am mainly focusing on talking about the charges against Julian Assange, which was 18 count superseding indictment. It's like, wow, so profound, right? always blows my mind. And you got some folks out there trying to be smarter than our constitutional republic, with all due respect. So, without further ado, I'm going to be talking about it right now. It'll be mainly about Julian Assange, the whole case of his indictment and so forth. Yes, it is one very controversial thing indeed. So I'm going to be starting off here with from the Justice Department. And I like what it says here. I got on here about the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange charged in 18 count superseding indictment. A federal grand jury returned an 18 count superseding indictment today, charging Julian P. Assange, 47, the founder of WikiLeaks, with offenses that related to Assange's alleged role in one of the largest compromises of classified information in the history of the United States. Assistant Attorney General for National Security John C. Demers, U.S. Attorney G. Zachary Terwilliger for Eastern District of Virginia, Assistant Director John Brown of the FBI's Counterintelligence Division, and Acting Assistant Director in Charge Timothy Dunham of the FBI's Washington Field Office made the announcement. The superseding indictment alleges that Assange was complicit with Chelsea Manning, a former intelligence analyst in the U.S. Army, in unlawfully attaining and disclosing classified information related to the national defense. Specifically, the superseding indictment alleges that Assange conspired with Manning, obtained from Manning, and aided and abetted her in obtaining classified information with reason to believe that information was to be used to the injury of the United States or the advantage of a foreign nation. Receiving and attempting to receive classified information, having reason to believe that such materials would be obtained, taken, made, and disposed of by a person contrary to law. And aided and abetted Manning in communicating classified documents to Assange. After agreeing to receive classified documents from Manning and aiding and abetting and causing Manning to provide classified documents, the superseding indictment charges that Assange then published on WikiLeaks classified documents that contain the unredacted names of human sources to provide information to the United States forces in Iraq and Afghanistan and to the U.S. Department diplomats around the world. These human sources included local Afghans and Iraqis, journalists, religious leaders, human rights advocates, and political dissidents from repressive regimes. According to the superseding indictment, Assange's actions risk serious harm to the United States national security to the benefit of our adversaries and put the unredacted name human sources at a grave and imminent risk of serious physical harm and or arbitrary detention. The superseding indictment alleges that beginning in the late 2009, Assange and WikiLeaks actively solicited United States classified information, including by publishing a list of the most wanted leaks that sought, among other things, classified documents. Manning responded to Assange's solicitation by using access granted to her as an intelligence analyst to search for United States classified documents and provided to Assange and WikiLeaks databases containing approximately 90,000 Afghanistan war-related significant activity reports, 400,000 Iraq war-related, significant activities reports, 800 Guantanamo Bay detainee assessment briefs, and 250,000 of U.S. Department of State cables. Many of these documents were classified at the secret level, meaning that their unauthorized disclosure could cause serious damage to the United States national security. Many also provided rules of engagement files for the Iraq War, most of which were also classified at a secret level, in which delineated the circumstances and limitations under which United States forces would initiate or conduct combat engagement with other forces. On what stance? On a Republican form of government or an imperialistic one? That's the question. I'll throw that at them, and everyone should too. The superseding indictment alleges that Manning and Assange engaged in a real-time discussions regarding Manning's transmission of classified records to Assange. The discussion also reflects that Assange actively encouraged Manning to provide more information and agreed to crack a password hash stored on U.S. Department of Defense computers connected to the secret Internet Protocol Network, SPIRNet, a United States government network used for classified documents and communications. Okay, so they're trying to really get this thing going here. So I'll just continue on here, and it says Assange also charged with conspiracy to commit computer intrusion for agreeing to crack that password hash. Assange is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. If convicted, he faces a maximum penalty for 10 years in prison on each count except for conspiracy to commit computer intrusion, for which he faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison. Actual sentences for federal crimes are typically less than the maximum penalty. A federal district court judge will determine any sentence after taking into account the U.S. sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. First, Assistant U.S. Attorney Tracy Doretti McCormick, Assistant Attorney General Kellen S. Dwyer, Thomas W. Traxler, and Gordon D. Kronberg, and trial attorneys Matthew R. Walczewski and Nicholas O. Hunter of the Justice Department's National Security Division are prosecuting the case. The indictment contains allegations that the defendant has committed a crime. Every defendant is presumed to be innocent until and unless proven guilty in court. So, it's interesting all about that. And there's some links on here to this page from the Justice Department's own website, justice.gov. So I'm definitely going to leave that. But one of the areas, there's 37 pages of the indictment. You can read for yourself. But I just find this couple of things here totally amazing. And do a little swoop and swap here. Boop, thank you very much. Let's just see here. Okay, one moment. Okay. Ooh, okay. I think it's the same page here, right? Yeah. Okay, it's almost the same. Okay, cool. I'll just take this one off. Sorry about that, my friends. It's goof up at times, but that's all right. But I got it down here. Yeah, it's interesting. There's on one of the downloads you can look at here. Remarks from briefing announcing the superseding indictment of Julian Assange, which was released on the 23rd of May. And it says here, as remarks as prepared for delivery by Assistant Attorney General for National Security John C. Demers. And it really gets me here, but I'm going to continue on. Because today we announced that a grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia has returned an indictment with 17 additional felony charges against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. I want to thank U.S. Attorney Zach Terwilliger, as well as FBI agents and the prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia and that security division who investigated this case over the years. One of the Department's of Justice's top priorities is to prosecute and therefore deter unauthorized disclosures of classified information. In the past 2 years, we have brought 4 cases involving the leaks of such information, and this is the 5th. In 2013, Chelsea Manning was convicted by court-martial for offenses that involve violations of her military oath to protect and defend the United States. As you know, it's interesting about the protect and defend the United States and violations of her military oath. So her military oath is to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So could you explain that to me, sir, what that means, Attorney General Demers? It's like, sometimes I just gotta smack upside the head, with this some form of rhetoric, but I will proceed. As you know, she provided Julian Assange and WikiLeaks with hundreds of thousands of pages of national defense information. The indictment today charges Julian Assange for his alleged complicity in Manning's actions, including his explicit solicitation of classified information and his encouraging her to remove classified information from U.S. systems and send it to him. So what happened? Did he try to blackmail her? Did he try to bribe her? Did he put a viral gun to her head via 3D printing that would go right through the phone or right through the internet, etc.? I will continue on here. It says, the indictment also charges Assange for his posting of a narrow subset of classified documents on WikiLeaks that allegedly identify the names of human sources, including local Afghans and Iraqis, who were assisting U.S. forces in theater, and those of journalists, religious leaders, human rights advocates, and political dissidents living in repressive regimes. Assange is thereby alleged to have created grave and imminent risk to their lives and liberty. Yes, but it's okay to bomb all the countries around the world in the name of the war on terror. Exceptional. These alleged actions disclose our sensitive classified information in a manner that made it available to every terrorist group, hostile foreign intelligence service, and opposing military. Documents relating to these disclosures were even found in the Osama bin Laden compound. Yeah, a lot of people are not even buying that story, with all due respect, sir. This release made our adversaries stronger, more knowledgeable, and the United States less secure. If we stop telling other countries how to think and force me to do so, it shouldn't be that much of a problem. It'll be a hell of a lot better. I think Mr. Demers should read the book Blowback by Chalmers Johansson. I should send that to him, yeah? Yeah, so I'll continue on here. Some say that Assange is a journalist and that should be immune from prosecution for these actions. The department takes seriously in the role of journalists in our democracy. And we want to thank you for it. Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me where in the Constitution the word democracy is documented? You can't. So you know what? You're dead wrong once again, sir. It is not and has never been the department's policy to target them for the reporting. Julian Assange is no journalist, and you're no attorney, sir. You're not a constitutional attorney when you say that about Julian Assange. This made plain by the totality of his conduct as alleged in the indictment, i.e. he's conspiring with and assisting a security clearance holder to acquire classified information and is publishing the names of human sources. Indeed, no responsible actor, journalist or otherwise, will purposely publish the names of individuals he or she knew to be confidential human sources in war zones, exposing them to the gravest danger. This is just what the superseding indictment charges Julian Assange with doing. The new charges seek to hold him responsible in the light of the full breadth of his illegal conduct. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting challenge, my friends, on his great letter. We're our democracy. He's no journalist. Yeah, you're the greatest attorney in American history, sir. Without you, we'd be helpless and clueless. We'll all put our hands in our hearts and say, God bless the empire, and we'll belly up to the one world order in Jesus' name, right? And I'm not trying to be blasphemous, folks. This is what they want us to be. Be a part of the Orwellian Mickey Mouse Club. Also be snowflakes and saps. They say bend over, we go, how far and wide, please? And I'll continue on here. I would like to turn over to Zach now to say a few words about his office's efforts. Remarks as prepared for delivery by U.S. Attorney G. Zachary Terwilliger for the Eastern District of Virginia. Today, federal grand jury sitting in the Eastern District of Virginia returning an 18-count superseding indictment charging Julian Assange of founders of WikiLeaks with offenses that related to his alleged role in one of the largest compromises of classified information in the history of the United States. Let it be clear about what Assange is charged with and what he is not charged with. Assange is charged for his alleged complicity in illegal acts obtained or received voluminous databases of classified information and for agreeing and attempting to obtain classified information through computer hacking. The United States has not charged Assange for passively obtaining or receiving classified information. This indictment alleges that Assange published in bulk hundreds of thousands of these classified documents. But the United States has not charged Assange for that. Instead, the United States has only charged Assange for publishing a narrow set of classified documents in which Assange also allegedly published the unredacted names of innocent people who risked their safety and freedom to provide information to the United States and its allies. These sources include local Afghan and Iraqis, journalists, religious leaders, human rights advocates, and political dissidents from repressive regimes. The indictment alleges that Assange knew that this publication of these sources endangered them. To be clear again, Assange is not charged simply because he's a publisher. In making any prosecutorial decision, the United States looks to the principles of federal prosecution, which provide that a determination to prosecute represents a policy judgment that the fundamental interests of society require the application of federal criminal law to a particular set of circumstances. The superseding indictment reflects these principles. My sincere thanks to prosecutors and our law enforcement partners in the National Security Division and the FBI for their outstanding work and commitment to this case. Can we say double standards? Yeah. So if someone in a political office, a la Hillary Clinton does it, it's exceptional. And anyone that calls out the government for the corrupt games get thrown in prison, a la Schaefer Cox. That's why they had that name J. Edgar Hoover on the J. Edgar Hoover building, right? A Nazi sympathizer. That's exceptional. That's special. That's an entitlement. Please, a lot of contradictions from this letter. All right. And I'll continue on here. It says, remarks as prepared for delivery by FBI Assistant Director for Counterintelligence John Brown. Good afternoon. The superseding charges unsealed today are a result of nearly a decade of investigative work by the FBI counterintelligence agents. Today, charges illustrate the priority the FBI places on enforcing the laws that protect our nation's security and vital intelligence sources. We are dedicated to pursuing investigations into unauthorized disclosures of U.S. national defense information. It is particularly true when unauthorized disclosures allegedly can include the names and identifiable information of intelligence sources who have risked their personal safety and, at times, their lives to provide the U.S. government with information. While technological advances have improved the way the U.S. government shares and disseminates our most sensitive information, they also made it more challenging to secure it. It is easier today than ever for clearance holders and non-state actors to widely and anonymously disseminate our nation's secrets out in the open. The FBI is committed to investigating this type of alleged criminal activity no matter how long the case may take. Here we are today, thanks in large part to the coordination and support of our partners and the work of the men and women of the FBI's Washington Field House office. Their dedication to this case deserves tremendous recognition. I would like to thank the Department of Justice in the Eastern District of Virginia for their commitment to this case. Thank you. Well, my tax dollars are going down the drain, so you're not welcome, sir. A lot of questions in the air for this, my friends. I can say this, I'm expecting this may backfire on the prosecutors because the jurors have this conscience when they take it to a jury trial, which is going to be expect that. They can counter us with jury nullification. All the facts are be on the table. There's some there's some history on this as well. The Pentagon Papers. They try to go after the person that released it, and the Washington Post published it. They couldn't do a damn thing. There's more of the Pentagon Papers 2.0. That's what I call it. Saying this is why we have to always got to look at these bigger scenario. Kio bono, who benefits? So you folks out there, what do you support? A republic or an empire? Yes, I'm proud to be in America, but not under the imperialistic and federal corporation. That's right. They declare us a corporation according to Title 28 U.S. Code, Section 3002, subsection 15 to be exact. You should look that up. I did a show on it years ago. It's still on my Spreaker page. But definitely check it out. Even on YouTube as well. So, you know what? I'm gonna be reading a few articles here from a couple of sources, and to be very sincere, both sides of the paradigm, whether it's Intercept, Alternate, American Conservative, they're not really too pleased. Okay, so that's a good thing. People looking at the constitutional principles on our Bill of Rights culture, and this is claimed to be decimating that. They're trying to sugarcoat it. Oh, he's not a journalist, as Attorney Demers said. Yeah, well, he's not a great lawyer. He's a bellboy, based on his transcripts here. So what we're gonna do? Excuse me here, folks. I'm going to be putting this. Read this right now by the Intercept. The indictment of Julian Assange under the Espionage Act is a threat to the press and of the American people. James Renegade. This came out yesterday. It says here, true democracy, which, I don't like that word. It's a one-vote system, please. Does not allow its government to decide who is a journalist. A nation in which a leader gets to make that decision is on the road to dictatorship. This is why the new U.S. indictment of Julian Assange is so dangerous to liberty in America. The Trump administration has charged Assange under the Espionage Act for conspiring to leak classified documents. The indictment released yesterday focused on his alleged efforts to encourage former Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning to leak the classified documents to him and WikiLeaks about a decade ago. Many of those documents, including U.S. military reports and State Department cables, were later published by WikiLeaks, but they were also the basis, sorry about that, of reporting by major news organizations like the New York Times and The Guardian, which published some of them. The Manning leaks helped reveal long-hidden truths about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and the post-9/11 global war on terror. Among the most striking leaks was a classified video of U.S. military attack helicopters killing a dozen people, including 2 Reuters staffers in Baghdad 2017. As well as more than 250,000 State Department cables, which continue to be an important reference for reporters and researchers studying U.S. foreign policy. The Manning documents also turned WikiLeaks into a strange new player into the modern journalistic ecosystem. WikiLeaks would obtain materials from sources inside governments and other organizations and then disseminate them, either by publishing them itself or by sharing them with major news organizations. WikiLeaks served as an intermediary between sources and reporters. Does that make Assange, its founder, a journalist? The debate over that question has raged ever since and has never been resolved. Journalists don't want the government to settle this question, and Americans shouldn't either. If the government gets to decide what constitutes journalism, what is to stop it from making similar rulings about any outlet whose coverage it doesn't like? He's absolutely correct on that. The indictment says that Assange and WikiLeaks repeatedly sought, obtained, and disseminated information that the United States classified due to the serious risk that unauthorized disclosure could harm the national security of the United States. Why? Because we're an empire? Yeah, because we're an empire. I am a real American, and I will belly up to the tyrannical establishment. I'll proceed. This is almost a textbook definition of the job of reporter covering national security at a major news organization. Take a look at the tips page and most news outlets. There are links. You can see it for yourselves, folks. And you'll see a remarkable similarity between what journalists asked for and what WikiLeaks sought. The document goes on to say that WikiLeaks' website explicitly solicit, censored, otherwise restricted, and until September 2010 classified materials. Today, virtually every major news organization has a similar secure Dropbox where sources can provide information anonymously. WikiLeaks popularized that technique for soliciting anonymous leaks, but is now common journalistic practice. Assange personally and publicly promoted WikiLeaks to encourage those with access to protected information, including classified information, to provide it to WikiLeaks for public disclosure, the indictment says. Nearly every national security reporter goes on television, gives speeches, or launches book tours to promote their work and hopefully obtain news sources. All of this raises an obvious question. If the government can charge Assange for conspiring to obtain leaked documents, what would stop from charging a CIA beat reporter at the New York Times for committing the same crime? The Obama administration began the government's investigation of Assange and WikiLeaks over the Manning leaks, but the issue of how to distinguish between WikiLeaks and the rest of the media is generally thought to have given them pause. The Trump administration has no such qualms. President Donald Trump sees the media as an enemy of the people. Charging Assange opens the door for his Justice Department to go after the rest of the press corps. Remember, folks, you gotta be vigilant when it comes to government, regardless who's in there. But I see this as an example. The great irony, of course, is that Trump publicly declared his love for WikiLeaks during the 2016 presidential campaign, when WikiLeaks acted as a kind of intermediary between shadowy front entities put up by Russian intelligence and the U.S. media in the distribution of hacked emails and other documents from Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party. Whether WikiLeaks and Assange knew they were getting the materials, at least indirectly, from Russian intelligence is still an open question, but there is no doubt that the New York Times, The Intercept, and other major media organizations largely ignored their provenance and instead lapped up the leaked materials and published them in the midst of the 2016 campaign. The results were very good for Trump. But the government's case against Assange has nothing to do with his role in laundering documents stolen by Russian spies to help Trump win the 2016 election. Instead, it focuses on his earlier work, which brought a new light to the dark corners of the war on terror. The selective nature of the charges against Assange underscores the fact that this is a highly politicized case brought by a Justice Department now run by Trump lackey William Barr. Yeah, just to let you folks know about William Barr, he actually did support the actions of the ATF agents at Ruby Ridge. I think it's Robert Reaver. Maybe Robert Reaver. Yeah, Robert Reaver case. So it's very disturbing. And even Guns of America did endorsement of no on now Attorney General Barr. Just so you folks can look it up yourselves. It's very interesting. So no one's on this. Not every Republican or gun rights owner or lobbyist group are like Trump, like some Trump worshipping bandwagon. It's like the Obama noise too before that. So that's why he's always gonna look at these areas. So I'm gonna continue on here, and even as it pursues Assange for his role in producing groundbreaking journalism, Trump's Justice Department is ignoring the one known instance when Assange actually worked, perhaps unwittingly, with a foreign intelligence service. But given that exploring said angle would raise new questions about alleged links between Trump and Russia, it is exceedingly unlikely that this Justice Department would choose to go down that road. Instead, is going after the publication of classified documents that help educated Americans about the conduct of their own government. All journalists and all Americans should be deeply worried about that. And one thing they'll use as a defense mechanism is to fight the war on terror, which George W. Bush announced at his presidential State of the Union address, like a week after the horrific event. So are you with us or are you with the terrorists? So, and they want to give up some more freedoms for security to protect us from this particular treacherous entities. So they can like throw that at him too. He's a potential terrorist because he put out the alleged classified information. So that's one of the areas you have to really seek, my friends. Is this considered to be the Pentagon Papers 2.0? Yeah, you know, they don't want to see history repeat itself, so they want to send a message to everybody. If you put out information that's considered a threat to our national security, even if it's tyrannical or imperialistic, you're going to try to make sure your rear end is thrown in jail and lock you up, throw away the key. That's how you gotta look at it, folks. This is what's interesting, because we all know too that Julian Assange isn't a U.S. citizen. They're really gonna push for his extradition, possibly gonna blackmail everyone, even in Britain and Sweden, Australia. Say, you're gonna do what we say, because the world revolves around us. Is one thing. That's why one of the reasons why I say hands off Assange. No extradition to the United States. Because the whole thing is, my friends, the truth is coming out. That's the thing. They're being exposed for what they're. You got criminal elements in our U.S. government that's like the rest of the world. Nothing new at all. Exceptionalism should be censured. Period. Get rid of the Lincoln legacy, the ideology. Yeah, if you really want to know about Lincoln, there's plenty of information pertaining to him. Everyone called Trump the first American dictator. Lincoln beat him about 150 years ago. All you gotta do is read the real Lincoln and Lincoln Unmasked by Thomas J. DiLorenzo and go further. You'd be surprised. But I know I'm ranting here. So we're gonna do another one here from The Intercept. And like I said, I'll be very frank. I'm fair with this website. They got a lot of good input, good content. And there's some things I may not agree with either. But like I said, always like to look at things a lot broader. And it says here, Sanders, Warren, and Wyden slam Assange indictment. A renegade use of the Espionage Act to criminalize journalism. You talk to three people I'm not really crazy about, okay? So it says here, this is by Alka Lacey. And as it says here, the Justice Department filed 17 charges against WikiLeaks co-founder Julian Assange on Thursday, deploying the controversial Espionage Act as a kudos against First Amendment protections and press freedom. It's the first time the U.S. government has used Espionage Act to prosecute a publisher, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. Democratic presidential candidates Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, along with Senator Ron Wyden, all have been outspoken on civil liberty issues, slammed the indictment. I call it natural rights. Let it be clear, it is a disturbing attack on the First Amendment for the Trump administration to decide who is or not a reporter for the purposes of a criminal prosecution. Sanders wrote in a tweet Friday afternoon after the Intercept contacted his office for comment. Trump must obey the Constitution, which protects the publication of news about our government. You got to do it to every single one of them. Even the Obamanoids. The Obama administration wasn't all that either. Look at James Comey, for goodness sakes. He hates free speech. But, like I said, you got to attack it across the board. And you, Bernie Sanders, should obey the Constitution. Don't double speak, with all due respect. I don't believe your hype. Warren distanced himself from Assange, but condemned the Justice Department's move to curtail press freedom. Assange is a bad actor who has harmed U.S. national security. Oh yeah, you're such a great patriot, right there, Miss Warren? And he should be held accountable, Warren said in a statement, but Trump should not be used this case as a pretext to wage war on the First Amendment and go after the free press who hold a powerful accountable every day. Yeah, well, I see a little double speak there. Yeah, another freedom hater too. This is not about Julian Assange, Wyden said in the statement. This is about the use of the Espionage Act to charge a recipient and publisher of classified information. I'm extremely concerned about the president that this may set and potential dangers to the work of journalists in the First Amendment. I could be very fair with that comment. The Justice Department has alleged that Assange violated the Espionage Act by publishing classified information in 2010 and that he encouraged sources to circumvent legal safeguards on the information. Assange, along with WikiLeaks, the indictment says, repeatedly sought obtain and disseminated information that the United States classified due to the serious risk and authorized disclosure could harm the national security. Those documents reveal the U.S. military killed unarmed civilians, and Reuters staff, and included activity reports from Afghanistan and Iraq, along with briefings on detainees being held at Guantanamo Bay. Yeah, I can't blame him for that. We gotta shut down that damn thing in Gitmo, man. This is totally absurd. And you talk to a guy that's not even a fan of these candidates or government. It doesn't matter what party. It is totally, insane. Information included those documents were reported by outlets including the New York Times and The Guardian. The Obama administration had always been reluctant to indict Assange due to what it called the New York Times problem. There is no way to say that Assange's actions was criminal without also saying that much of what Times and other mainstream outlets do is also against the law. Indeed, the documents are still officially classified, meaning that anybody who discusses them, even in the context of Assange's indictment, could themselves be committing a crime. Transparency advocates have said that the executive branch has been classifying too much basic information. The soup of the day at the CIA's cafeteria, for instance, could be classified. If the government effectively criminalizes reporting on classified information, that gives the government a unilateral authority to determine what can and cannot be published simply by deploying its APAQ and unreviewable disclassification scheme. Assange is currently serving a jail sentence in the United Kingdom for jumping bail to seek refuge in London's Ecuadorian embassy. He had long said he was concerned about the United States would unveil precisely the kind of indictment it did on Thursday and seek to extradite him. He was arrested in April after Ecuador withdrew his asylum for what Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno described as a repeated violation of international conventions and daily life protocols. Yet an even $4 billion loan and pulling down your pants, President Moreno, got you. That loan you got really paid off. Congratulations, sir. You're just another Uncle Tom to the globalists. That arrest was also made in part on behalf of the U.S. regarding the extradition request from 2010, charging Assange with conspiring with Chelsea Manning to leak classified documents. Assange was, until recently, also facing two separate charges from 2010 of rape and molestation in Sweden. Sweden dropped one case in 2015 after the statute of limitations expired, and the other in 2017, but is now considering reopening the latter case. Members of Congress have been decidedly mum on the latest indictment, given the same in Washington for whistleblowing in general and the WikiLeaks apparatus in particular, which Democrats blamed for upending Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential bid. No, because you folks in the DNC decided to select Hillary Clinton, which she was a war criminal, a freedom-hating scum queen, and tossed our Bill of Rights down the toilet. She used it as toilet paper, okay? That's why she lost. Assange's critics have quibbled over characterizing him as a journalist, but press freedom advocates are alarmed at the Justice Department's use of Espionage Act to target someone who publishes leaked information as opposed to target only to the leaker. Assistant Attorney General for National Security John Denver said Thursday Assange is no journalist and that the department takes seriously the role of the journalists and their democracy, and we support it. See, Like I said, Demers is not a lawyer. He's just a collective tyrant. The Committee to Protect Journalists said, irrespective of how the Justice Department may characterize Assange's role, the indictment could chill investigative reporting. Oops, sorry about that. CPJ, North American Coordinator Alexandra Ellerbeck called the move a reckless assault on the First Amendment that crosses a line no previous administration has been willing to cross and threatens to criminalize the most basic practices of reporting. For reach for comment, a spokesperson for the House Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler, said he hadn't been yet in touch with the representative for his thoughts on the indictment. Nadler had a medical episode during the press conference in New York. Spokesperson for Senator Dianne Feinstein, the ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, did not immediately respond for a request for comment. Well, I'm not surprised anyway. So that's one of the areas I look at, my friends. Can this hurt the press? Absolutely. Hey, 9/11, 24/7 excuse for everything. That's how you gotta look at it. That's how I see it. Absolutely. No ends, ifs, or buts. So, so it's just one of those things, my friends. We gotta stay focused and pay attention and be vigilant. We gotta prevent the domino effect from happening. That's why each and every one of you can be a reporter, a journalist, a podcaster. The technology's there. Implement it. Because the truth of the matter is, folks, they're supposed to be working for us, not the other way around. It's the House of Representatives, to be exact. Now, every state in the union can say no to this. Even we have a broader resolution from May 6, 2003. Unanimously did not accept certain language pertaining to the U.S. Patriot and Domestic Security Enhancement Acts. And I talk about the press and the right, if you violate one person's right, it affects us all. So there's avenues and ammunition you can use against these individuals with tyrannical attributes. So we're going to hear a couple of viewpoints here. This is from the Columbia Journalism Review. Espionage charges against Assange are terrifying threats to press freedom. Last month, shortly after police dragged Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, out of Ecuador's embassy in London, the United States said it will seek his extradition. Journalists and press freedom watchers, many of whom dislike Assange, waited anxiously for details of the charges. The Justice Department, they fear, was prepared to indict Assange for practices relevant to journalism, possibly under the Espionage Act. Later that day, when the charge was made public, some breathed a sign of relief. Assange was to face a single count under Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, Chelsea Manning's cracked word, which is something typically do. Many press activists, however, wanted the indictment contain some gray areas. All right, continue on here. And that further charges would likely follow. A separate recent unsealed affidavit in Assange's case added cause for concern. It discussed published and borrowed language from the Espionage Act. Yesterday's situation took a grave turn. U.S. authorities outlined 18 additional charges against Assange, 17 of which fall under the Espionage Act. All the charges arose from sharing classified intelligence documents and diplomatic cables that Manning passed through WikiLeaks for publication. Assange faces a maximum sentence of 175 years. Briefing reporters, Justice Department officials insisted that they were not trying to criminalize journalism. I know. Propaganda. Don't believe the hype. Most of the counts, they stressed, result from the Assange obtained information. Those related to publication are narrow in scope, concerning only a handful of documents that identify U.S. intelligence sources in dangerous places. Many journalists consider Assange's publication of such details to have been grossly unethical. Julian is not a journalist. John Demers, head of the Justice Department National Security Division, said, I'll say it before, John Demers is not the constitutional attorney. All right, thank you. The government should not get to decide who is and isn't a journalist. After a drawing distinction is beside the point. The question is whether Assange is a journalist, but whether the government's legal theory threatens the freedom of the press. Care to sell a staff attorney at the Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University wrote on Twitter. It does. The government argues that Assange violated the Espionage Act by soliciting, obtaining, and then publishing classified information. So listen, how much money did he give Chelsea Manning? That's the question, folks. That's exactly what good national security and investigative journalists do every day. The solicitation charges based on open calls for information that WikiLeaks posted on the website, a practice common to many news organizations. The Reporters Committee for the Freedom of the Press said that the charges pose a dire threat. The Freedom of the Press Foundation called them terrifying. Ted Boutros, a prominent media lawyer, said that the U.S. government wants to use Assange's bad name to cover for a dangerous president. There is a real element of picking the weakest of the herd, or of the most unpopular figure. Try to blunt the outcry, Boutros told the New York Times. Troubling legal clampdowns on freedom of the press have been on the rise since the latter days of the George W. Bush administration. Until now, however, the Justice Department has mostly used the Espionage Act to protect staffers who have leaked information to journalists. The charges against Assange represent a sharp departure, since it is the first time a publisher has been indicted under the law. The Obama administration considered taking this step against Assange, but ultimately decided against it. It is far from clear whether the charges against Assange will stand up in court. It is also unclear whether Assange will ever even face an American judge. Sweden is seeking to extradite him as part of a recently reopened rape investigation. And the latest heavy-handed U.S. charges might not sit well with British courts, which have the power to decide where Assange goes next. With yesterday's indictment, however, the story is no longer really about Assange. It is clearly the clearest example yet that in the U.S., practice of journalism is at risk. Absolutely. And it's interesting here about the press. I like to go on a little further here about below more on the government's legal threats to press freedom. The law as a sword. Manning, who is in jail for refusing to testify about Assange before a grand jury, released a statement following yesterday's charges, accepting a full and sole responsibility for disclosing information in WikiLeaks. This administration describes the press as an opposition party and the enemy of the people, she said. Today, they use the law as a sword and have shown their willingness to bring the power of the state against the very institution intended to shield us from such excesses. And the Espionage Act of the Chainsaw, 2 weeks ago, the Justice Department charged Daniel Hale, a former national security analyst under the Espionage Act, alleging that he leaked classified information to a journalist. The recipient was not named, but is widely believed to have been Jimmy Skyle of The Intercept. This week, Skyle posted a 10-minute video on Trump's war on leaks. The administration is using Espionage Act like a chainsaw, he said. Tip of the iceberg, in 2013, the Obama administration subpoenaed phone records belonging to the Associated Press and several of its reporters as part of the leak investigation. The move widely was condemned, but according to a new report obtained from the Freedom of Information Act, it was the end of the story. The Justice Department also considers subpoenaing the Times, the Washington Post, and ABC News, Ramya Krishnan, and Trevor Tim. So, just to give you guys what's been going on, you can watch all these things as well. Hey, I'm critical of some of the journalism out there that try to bring out lies and propaganda. That's why when it comes to the press, I support accuracy to the best of the reporters or journalists' ability. That's it. Not this mocking, propaganda, or lies. You can tell a lot of people are learning the ifs. You know, well, how accurate is it? How authentic it is. And this is why you got like a bunch of people, like the so-called news anchor teams from the mainstream garbage media, just read from a damn teleprompter. Don't take the time to actually look at it themselves. So that's one of the areas you always gotta say, observe responsibly, my friends. This is very dangerous because war on the press, you're going to use it as the war on terror. As it goes across the board. The war on terror is a conflict with the people from not just the United States but the world. I am very concerned about this, and I recommend that everyone contact your congressman to say no to extradition. Extradition is breaching your oath of office. Say it to them directly. If they support it, ask them how they feel being less patriotic than Benedict Arnold. You can ridicule them with decorum. You got folks in Washington, D.C. I can use certain words, but I'll be polite. District of criminals. I got others I'm going to use, but it'd be considered vulgar. That's how we gotta always see these folks. Government is a force. You never trust them. Declaration of Independence made that clear about if the government goes usurped. Jefferson made that statement. All you gotta do is read, my friends. Don't listen to hot air. It doesn't matter what your views are. I'm gonna go one more here. And this came from thewire.com. It's written by Brian Barrett. It says here the Julian Assange indictment is an assault on press freedom. On Thursday, the Department of Justice unsealed the new charges against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Unlike the previous indictment, which focused narrowly on an apparent offer to help crack a password, the 17 superseding counts focused instead on alleging the Espionage Act. In doing so, the DOJ has aimed at battering ram at the press, freedom of the press, whether you think Assange is a journalist or not. The indictment, which you can read full below, alleges that Assange published a classified information over a dozen times, an act expressly forbidden by the Espionage Act, which Congress first passed in 1917, but the Espionage Act has only rarely and never successfully been applied to the recipient of a leak. For the first time in history in our country, the government has brought criminal charges against a publisher for the publication of truthful information, says Ben Wisner, director of the American Civil Liberties Union Speech, Privacy, and Technology Project. This is an extraordinary escalation of the Trump administration's attack on journalism and direct assault on the First Amendment. If they can bring this charge and convict Assange on it, they can bring it against anyone. This is what Bradley Moss has to say in his tweet. Mark Zaid, PC. The Trump administration's position that the Espionage Act should apply here would have immediate and broadly felt repercussions far beyond WikiLeaks. Because, however you personally care to classify Assange, the act at the heart of this latest indictment mirror those made by journalists every day. There are reasons U.S. citizens known about PRISM and the Pentagon Papers and any number of other revelations around abuses of powers and governmental impropriety. The people leaking it are obviously violating their secrecy agreement and breaking the law. But as long as the journalist doesn't pay the leaker or help them hack passwords, this is what investigative journalists in the national security community do on a day-to-day basis, said Bradley Moss, an attorney at Mark Zaid's PC, who focus on national security and intelligence issues. If they can bring this charge and convict Assange on it, they can bring it against anyone. It's called a domino effect. That in part because the Espionage Act doesn't carve out any exemptions for journalists. That protection has come from the First Amendment and from recognition among previous administrations that prosecuting publishers of leaks would set a dangerous precedent. In fact, Thursday's charges deal specifically with incidents that occurred in 2009 and 2010 during the Obama administration. Attorney General at the time, Eric Holder, passed on the same charges for specifically that reason. It was obviously looked at, and the department ultimately made a decision that it wasn't appropriate to charge Assange for publishing classified information, says former Obama DOJ spokesperson Matthew Miller. Not because he's a journalist, we didn't believe he was. But the same legal theories would you apply to him could be used against a reporter for any major media outlet. This was the driving force. John Demers, who leads the Justice Department National Security Division, attempted to draw a distinction between Assange and the traditional media outlets from reporters Thursday. Some say that Assange is a journalist and that she should be immune from prosecution for these actions. The department takes serious the roles of journalists in our democracy, Demers said. It has never been the department's policy to target them for reporting, but Julian Assange is no journalist, like I said before, and Demers is no constitutional attorney. All right? Thank you. Unfortunately, that distinction doesn't matter in the eyes of the Espionage Act. A successful prosecution of Assange would establish a precedent that publishing sensitive national security material is a crime. Full stop. From there, the Trump administration and whoever follows would be emboldened to prosecute similar journalistic acts. Not only that, they get to decide who counts as a journalist in the first place. They can pick and choose. Government, you're a journalist, you're not. Yeah, but I'll just keep on going here. If the courts concludes that Espionage Act can apply even to people who are invoking First Amendment protections that give DOJ all kinds of leverage going forward, says Moss, and a precedent in which they get to decide who is and is not a journalist for the purposes of criminal liability. It's like the 18th Amendment all over again, right? The Justice Department also wouldn't embark on a case like this unless it was prepared to argue it all the way to the Supreme Court, says Miller, using the law in a way that has never been used before, he says, noting that the conservative-leaning makeup of the current Supreme Court may have emboldened DOJ to act. It is no exaggeration to say the First Amendment itself is at risk. Trevor Tim, Freedom of the Press Foundation. So this is like a lot of folks out here, they're pretty damn ticked off. President Trump himself has frequently castigated the press as an enemy of the people and expressed a specific disdain for leaks. But whether or not you read Assange's charges as an end around to erode the First Amendment or take Demers' word that his targeted strike against a longtime agitator is moot. The end result of a successful conviction will be the same. Journalists at risk of jail time, subject to the whims of an adversarial Justice Department. Put simply, these unprecedented charges against Julian Assange and WikiLeaks are the most significant and terrifying threat to the First Amendment in the 21st century. Trevor Tim, co-founder of the Freedom of the Press Foundation, said in a statement, the ability of the press to publish facts the government would prefer remain secret is both critical to an informed public and a fundamental right. This decision by the Justice Department is a massive and unprecedented escalation in Trump's war on journalism, and is no exaggeration to say the First Amendment itself is at risk. Bringing charges against Assange for alleged hacking at least made sense. Journalists would expect to be and have been prosecuted for similar. But the best radius of the Espionage Act conviction against Assange would include every working national security journalist. Surely the Justice Department is aware of those implications, and that's what makes the decision go forward with charges all the more unnerving. I can't argue with that, my friends. How far will this go? That's the question. This is why, I'll say it again, say no to extradition of Julian Assange and anyone else that's a journalist, a publisher, etc. Tyrants don't like being called out. They try to use fear as a weapon, like what's happening to him. We cannot let that get to us. Remember, they used it on September 11th to give up our freedom for security. I was against it all the way, and I'm damn proud of it. And many people out there, I give you homage for sticking to your guns. The only way to fight tyranny is to defend our U.S. Bill of Rights culture. Period. And natural-born rights around the world. Investigative journalists are getting taken out, murdered. Look what happened to Hastings. Look what happened to the woman in Kurdistan. No, not Kurdistan, Malta. And folks in Russia. People are being murdered for trying to put the truth out, my friends. Now it's getting too obvious. What happens, if this happens to Mr. Assange, whether you like him or not, you can be next. So what's your call? If you don't protect our liberties, protect the liberties of our enemies, it'll soon will come to us. Would you like that? I don't. And that's the damn truth. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us on your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or something that's interesting I want to check out, whatever you do, please share your correspondence with decorum. Furthermore, I will leave all my footnotes within my Spreaker page, okay? Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.